Welcome to Mom Boss Central. I'm your host, Alexia Hoffman. This podcast is where entrepreneurial moms like you and me come together for real and raw conversations filled with practical tips, genuine stories, and a whole lot of girl power. But it's not just about listening, it's about building a community. If you haven't already, make sure to join at mombosscentral.com. So whether you're sipping on a cup of coffee, pouring yourself a glass of wine, or tuning in on the go, get ready to join the conversation and become part of our supportive Mom Boss Central community.
Sounds good.
All right. Lacy, welcome to the show. So happy to have you on. I'm here with Lacy Catao. Welcome. Will you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yes, thank you. And thank you for having me. I'm so honored to be here. My name is Lacy Catao. I am a mom of 3 girls, all under the ages of 9. I run a holistic health business, so I have been in the nutrition and wellness field for close to 10 years. And I specialize in nutrition, holistic nutrition, and that has become my sole focus since becoming a mom.
I love it. I love that you're part of the 3-girl club. I too have 3 girls. So fun. I feel like, I don't know if it's just because I'm aware of it, but I notice a lot more boy moms than all girl moms. It's a small crew that we have. I feel like we got to stick together.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, they are something else. They'll keep up their toes for sure.
That's for sure. I'm nervous for high school, but we'll see how it goes. Well, tell us a little bit about how you got into your business and became an entrepreneur, and then how that changed when you had your kids.
Sure, absolutely. So I had no idea that I was going to become an entrepreneur. I had this whole system set out in my mind that I was going to go into law enforcement. I was previously in the California Army National Guard.
My gosh.
So my whole plans changed when I met my husband. And when I became pregnant with my first oldest daughter, I started doing a lot of research into how I wanted to raise her, how I wanted to pursue health for the health of our family. And that just led me down this rabbit hole. So I went from Army National Guard to not expecting to be a business owner. And then coming from the corporate world, I used to work in legal field, to ending up not going back to work after I had my first daughter, which is not anything that my family has ever done. And it was completely different than what I was used to.
Yeah. So how did you come to that decision, and what did it look like?
So when I was pregnant, I just knew that I did not want to leave my daughter. I didn't want to have the typical 9 to 3, 9 to 5 schedule where she was going to be in school and that I would just get her for a few hours when she was out of school. Because it's just such a hard line to draw on, the balance between homework and activities and then work schedule. I didn't want to be away from my family. So that was a big decision for my husband and I at the time, because he also works corporate job. But we decided that it was best for me to stay home. And then from there, this nutrition and wellness evolved for us.
So how long were you home when you decided to take the plunge into starting your own business?
Gosh, not long after I had my first daughter. It just, so my husband actually had some health concerns while I was pregnant with her, and that inspired me to do that deep dive. And so I went into the nutrition realm, and we decided, hey, we're going to change up our lifestyle, completely different than any of our family members. And when I did that, I became super passionate about it and wanting to share the difference that I could make, because I saw the difference that it made with my husband.
Yeah, that's amazing. What kind of changes did you make, and how did you implement them? Because I think it's easy to say, oh, I want to change my eating habits or my lifestyle, but what did you do, and how did you actually do it?
So I'll tell you a little bit about my husband had genetically high cholesterol, and we weren't able to, he was in great shape. He trained Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, all of the things. So he was eating a standard trainer's diet, let's say.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we decided, hey, let's try to avoid any type of external factors that may need to come into our life to be able to reduce his cholesterol. So we
Mm-hmm.
chose to do that the nutrition route, which meant cutting out a lot of different types of foods. But we decided to jump into it,
Yeah.
and we set a date. We cut out certain foods, and then we stuck to it. And
Mm.
from then on out, it was definitely a learning curve because I grew up, my mom was a single mom. She worked full time, and we didn't have home cooked meals all the time. And so
Yeah.
I had to learn how to prepare those meals.
Yeah, that is, that's, very inspiring that you were able to actually implement that. And I think, setting a date is an interesting strategy because I think a lot of the time people, it's like that all or nothing mentality of I have to do this forever or I have to diet really hard. So how did you navigate as a woman? How did you navigate diet culture and figure out what you wanted to cut out versus what you felt like you should cut out?
So I've always been the type, I guess, to go against the grain. So based on the studies and research that I did, I knew that it was going to be a drastic change.
Mm,
I had all of these books that were teaching me completely different protocols than what we were used to,
mm-hmm,
and I was accepting of that because it was for the health of my family. So
mm,
my husband and I, my whole family, we do face a lot of objection challenges based on our lifestyle, but
yeah,
we've just learned to roll with the punches,
yeah,
let it go. And actually, it's fun. Make a joke out of it. Like, yep, we're those people that don't eat X, Y, and Z. And so it hasn't become something that has been a factor in terms of should we just, go back to the diet that we were on just because it's easier? It's like, no,
mm,
this is our family and we're going to stick to this first and foremost for the benefit of our kids.
yeah. So tell me a little bit about like your business and like what you actually have cut out or what healthy living looks like for you guys and what you teach women as well.
Sure. So a lot of the women that come to me, they're generally wanting to lose weight. I fell into this realm of weight loss, weight management,
Mm,
and with that comes the overall optimal wellness. So they want
yeah,
to achieve having more energy, having clearer skin. So for
yeah,
our family, that meant cutting out a lot of animal products. That's
mm,
what helped our cholesterol. That's what helped certain ailments that we were facing. And
yeah,
it's shown a lot of improvement for us. So, what I teach my clients to do is incorporate just more whole foods, whether
mm,
they want to follow a specific diet from paleo to veganism, it doesn't matter as long as we're trying to incorporate those whole foods and really cutting out any type of synthetic ingredients, any type of dyes. Even my kids know to look for, certain dyes or certain, additives that our bodies don't recognize.
mm. So what would be one of those things that we should look for? I mean, for someone like myself who I haven't done a lot of research, where's a good starting point? What's one thing that I could, make a conscious effort to cut out? I mean, I'm sure there's a long list, but something that's maybe pretty common that is, proven to be not good and that I should be aware of.
So I think the simple option that in that regard is just simply cutting out processed foods. That
Mm,
makes a dramatic impact on our
yeah.
overall well-being. I've had people say, "Wow, ever since I cut out, the packaged, noodles and cheese and things like that,
Yeah.
I've seen such a difference in their mental clarity, being able to
Mm,
reduce different ailments and things like that.
yeah.
And it's been incredible to see just the impact that it has made.
Yeah, definitely. So as a, working mom and someone with not a ton of free time, how do you suggest we implement eating whole foods, but also in a way that doesn't require changing our schedules per se.
I think food prep really has a lot to do with it. And when I say food prep, that also includes the planning aspect of it. I'm not saying
Okay.
you need to plan, weeks in advance, but
Mm-hmm.
just having a general idea of what you're going to the grocery store for, because
Yeah.
then you're not wandering around picking up ingredients that are going to go to waste.
Yeah.
So having some type of rotation of recipes, maybe just a handful of those
Mm.
recipes that you can incorporate weekly, and
Yeah.
those are your go-to. That way you know what to expect. You know that on Saturday or Sunday you're prepping a big batch of rice or beans, or you're chopping up your vegetables for the next couple of days. That makes a big difference, especially spending that extra time in the kitchen.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like I recently have been trying to be more aware, but I still struggle with finding recipes that are healthy versus they could be healthy, if that makes sense. So like I look up,
Mhm.
I buy healthy ingredients like chicken and carrots and beans and rice, let's say. But then when I go to find a recipe, it calls for a lot of other additives that maybe aren't as healthy, whether it's breading the chicken or certain sauces, things like that. So what's one or two easy meals that are healthy that can be prepped and integrated into our diets pretty easily?
I think one would be a big stew, whether it's an
Okay.
instant pot meal or just a soup on the stove, because many times we have all of these excess, carrots or
Yeah.
chicken or rice, and it can
Yeah.
all be made into a simple instant pot stew or soup. If anything, you just add some extra vegetable broth or chicken broth to it,
Mm.
and you have a great meal. Just
Yeah.
trying to balance that out. I know one of our go-tos is like a burrito soup. So it has beans
Mm.
and rice and a bunch of vegetables.
That sounds
And
good.
you can make that while you're making lunch, and then it just
Yeah.
sits on the stove and it's ready for dinner.
That's great. I'm gonna have to try burrito stew. I never even heard of that. That's so fun. I love it. Well, tell me a little bit more about the logistics of like getting your business up and running, having three daughters, and how your business has evolved as your role as a mother has evolved.
Sure. My business has taken off since having kids. And so finding that balance between how do I have all, these kids, because I also homeschool them, and
Mm.
also trying to run a business that is making an impact. Based on what I've learned over the years, I think having a network, a community, such as what you're building here, I think it's a necessity, because having people in your corner rooting you on or having this exposure so that
Yeah.
people can give you their tips and their tricks. I think that is very important. Another key aspect that has helped me is having a supportive partner. My
Mm.
husband supports me full force if I need any type of input, or, if I'm facing a challenge with an assistant or anything on how to run my business, I
Yeah.
bounce ideas off of him. So
Yeah.
having, that additional network, but also having a supportive partner has been fundamental for the growth of my business.
Yeah, I love that you mentioned that because I think as women in business, it's very interesting for me anyway to find the balance of, having my husband be involved and still it being my business. My husband and I actually started our rental property business together. And then when I got pregnant with my twins, I had my real estate brokerage. And so he took over the rentals and then started a construction company from that. So we used to work together, but it was all nights and weekends as a side thing. And then he made it his full time, and then I had my full time. And as I've scaled my Mom Boss Central and everything else, it's like he is such a huge part of that. To have those conversations, like that's a big part of our marriage is our business mindset. And when we started dating, he had a vision board, and on there, I think it's okay I share this. I don't think it's a bad thing, but on there, his goal was to be the CEO of his 9 to 5 job. Like he was not entrepreneurial minded. Well, I shouldn't say that because he had a rental property and he Airbnb'd a room in his house. So he was entrepreneurial minded, but he didn't really, in my opinion, think big enough, right? Like he's the safe, he's the integrator and I'm the visionary. So for him, it was not normal conversation to be thinking of like, what is my ideal life? What are my big goals and big dreams? But once we started having those conversations, it really did change the whole dynamic of our relationship because it was something that we could both be passionate about. So you mentioned your husband has a corporate job. What does that look like for someone who, like, now my husband's an entrepreneur, full-time, we're both full-time entrepreneurs. A lot of our life revolves around that. Our conversations revolve around that. But for you, having a partner who is in the corporate space and you being an entrepreneur, how do you navigate those conversations?
So that's a great question because he is actually the one that inspired me to start my own business. When I was in my training for the National Guard, this is a funny story, but he sent me some information on a network marketing company. And
Mm,
I had no idea what network marketing was. Because of that, that's what kind of sparked my interest into doing more research, just because I
yeah,
wanted to know how these things worked, how
definitely.
it's a wellness network marketing company, and I wanted to know more about the science and the research. So that is
Mm,
actually what pushed me into nutrition. And so we still have that business together, and we also have some real estate property. We He's always been the type that has has wanted to dream bigger. He's probably dreamt
yeah,
bigger than me
yeah,
in those terms. And he's always wanted to get out of like the 9 to 5 and things like that.
yeah.
These conversations were always inspiring one another to
Mm,
dream
I
bigger.
love that.
Like you said, both of us have those visions, and he's more of the thought process behind all of it, whereas I am, let's go with my faith. I have
Yeah.
faith that it'll work out. I'm not really sure how it'll work out, but I
Yes,
have
I'm the
faith that
same.
it will.
Yeah, 100%. I was talking to someone who he runs a business and his wife and him work together on it. And he said that she's the dreamer and he's the dream squasher because he thinks about like, okay, the finances, the logistics, the time frames, the stuff that I don't like to think about. We were talking how I'm the dreamer. My husband is not the dream squasher, but there's definitely some logistics that he thinks of that I don't.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It'll work out.
So, yeah, definitely. So how do you guys manage, I mean, in your household, what does that look like with you homeschooling the kids and then you guys having business together, but you also running your business? Like, how do you guys navigate responsibilities and prioritize your marriage, parenting, and running your business?
Day by day. No, we have a pretty good routine going. I
Okay.
mean, we both are very active, so we both get up first thing in the morning and work out. So we have our time to exercise and get the fitness in. And he, goes to his job, and he actually works from home for his job,
Mm,
but his office is downstairs, so it's separated from where I'm homeschooling the girls. Every once in a while we'll have like a lunch together, but
that's nice.
typically when I'm preparing lunch for the kids, I'll prepare him a plate so he has something, so he's not having to worry about that kind of thing. So we're a good team in those regards. And then in terms of our businesses, we're always very open with each other, and I think
Mm,
that is key in business building, relationship building. I mean, just having a marriage that runs smoothly, especially
yeah.
with kids. You have to have that open dialogue, and communication is key. I know it sounds
Yeah.
completely cliche,
Oh,
but
it's so true.
yeah, having navigating and delegating those responsibilities. And
Yeah.
I think too often as moms, we try to handle everything.
Mm,
Sometimes
yeah.
we just have to speak up and ask for help. And with our partners, asking them for help or telling them, hey, this is how I'm feeling.
Yes.
I know sometimes we let it either eat away at us or we get
Hmm.
so upset about it that it just comes flying out. I think one aspect of that we have to try to regard for ourselves, for our mental health, but that of our relationship is, okay, how can I communicate this in a way where I'm not putting someone else, including our husband or whether it's a client, anyone,
Yeah.
putting them on the defensive. I think communication really evolves over time within a business as well.
100%. I love that you said that because I think that is something that is so simple, but it's also so easy to forget. Like, I know when we get in the habit of like trying to do it all and not asking for help, for me, it almost becomes like prideful, like, oh, look, I just did all these things. And then I'm resentful. So, something that a marriage counselor had told us that I thought was so good was when you're describing, like you've heard of doing the I statements, and we have done, all kinds of different communication tools, skills, whatever you want to call them. But one of them that was so impactful for me was to describe the situation that you don't like. If you say, I feel frustrated when you fill in that blank, to not use the word you. And that was something that was so hard at first. But what it does is it shifts the conversation to be about the situation. It's about what's happening and what you're experiencing, not what they did. And I think once we started communicating that way, it really did have such a big impact, because not only was it not putting him on the defensive, but it was changing how I thought about the situation. Because instead of me being mad that he didn't do the dishwasher, I was frustrated that I woke up and the dishwasher was dirty. You know what I mean? It's like that small mindset shift. And to try to implement that, it definitely took a lot of practice, but it was something that was so impactful. So for somebody who's listening that, maybe has been struggling with communication with a partner, and asking for help, trying to rephrase it even in your mind about what about the situation is frustrating me, not what about my partner, not about what my partner didn't do is how I guess I'm trying to say it. So I love that you brought that up. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And especially I do a similar practice, and I asked myself, okay, what's the story I'm telling myself?
Yeah, so
And
good.
with that, I noticed, for example, I would notice I would become frustrated with my kids. And this was a while back when I was trying to juggle all the things and still finding a rhythm.
Yeah.
And I would get frustrated when they would interrupt me. And I'm like, but this is not my business hours. I was just
Yeah.
trying to get something done in between time, and I would
Yeah.
take it out on them. And then I would feel resentful or guilty for taking it
Yeah.
out on them. Well, going back to like, what's the story I'm telling myself, whether it's in regards to something with my husband or even with my kids, because I have to
Yeah.
be able to nurture them, and they don't know, they can't tell, when our business hours are, or when we're open and when we're closed. So
Yeah.
being able to set aside a time so that they can have my full attention, and I'm not resentful toward them or anyone else when I need to
Yeah.
get something done.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think I love that framework of what story am I telling myself, because I use that with clients as well. Like, why is this frustrating me? Because really, if I look at the situation, it's not about them. Like what they're doing, whether it's my kids, my clients, my husband, it doesn't matter. Like when I ask myself, what story am I telling? It gives me permission to like take responsibility, but also look at like why I'm being triggered, like my past wounds and self that, and we give ourselves space to say, hey, there's something else going on here. And maybe it's my fault, maybe it's not, but there's something that's impacted how I'm perceiving the situation. I think it just like gives us permission to feel that way, and then we can move past it. But when we don't acknowledge where it's coming from, I think that's when the shame spiral sets in of like, oh, I can't believe I reacted that way. Like it was such a stupid thing. Why did I go off the rails? And it's like, well, it might be a stupid thing, but really it's built up over time, or it's, tying you to some other situation that was a much bigger deal for you in that moment.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It really does make a significant impact when we ask ourselves and try to define that clarity.
Yeah. Yeah. So as you're home with your kids and you're running your business, and you're also trying to, keep your household running, how do you prioritize time for yourself and give yourself space to prioritize your mental health and physical health?
So, in regards to my mental and physical health, it really comes down to that rhythm that I was referring to. So,
Mm,
setting a schedule that works and is compatible with my husband.
mm,
So he can have his time to also work out, so we can both have our time, whether it's, his guy's trip away or
mm-hmm.
my time to have dinner with the moms or something like that. Again, it comes down and right around to that communication. So
Mm,
knowing when we need to have our space, but on a day-to-day basis, we have a great rhythm going. Whether it's I get up early and work out, and then I know, I'm responsible for X, Y, and Z, and he's responsible for X, Y, and Z. So it
yeah.
really makes a difference. And especially, I've seen a huge difference with my kids and also my
Mm,
business really coming to fruition when I have that rhythm and that schedule in place because everyone knows what to expect. When we have
yeah.
those expectations out in the open, then again, it goes back to I'm not harboring any hard feelings because
Hmm.
someone else doesn't know what I'm expecting.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
having that rhythm is key. And I think us as humans really thrive off of having a set schedule and routine.
Yeah, definitely. How long did it take you from starting your business and having kids to actually feel good about the rhythm and the routine that you implemented?
Gosh, I'm still working on it every day.
I think that's, very important to hear because I think sometimes people see, the success and they forget it takes time to get there. How were you able to start implementing that and how has it evolved over the years?
I think, gosh, it's evolved over the years based on the growth of my business, but
Mm,
also based on the ages of my kids.
yeah.
So it's very seasonal, and I think that is something that we as moms forget to take into consideration. That
Hmm.
if we are facing a trying time, that it's typically temporary.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that there are so many different seasons with our children as they develop,
Hmm.
and it almost reflects in our business because when
Yeah.
everything is running smoothly at home, then we're able to put 110% into our businesses as well.
Yeah.
So at the beginning, I really fumbled along, and it was really isolating because I didn't have a lot of people who knew what I was going through, who was
Yeah.
trying to be a mom and also run a business. So I would say, I mean, it took me a handful of years to kind of find, those two or three couple of people that have been able to resonate, or at least you and I were talking at the beginning that oftentimes we take things for granted because we think of it as normal in our lives,
Hmm.
whereas other people look at our lives from the outside looking in and see like you're doing this and this and this.
Yeah.
You need to really take a step back and
Hmm.
consider like you are a mom boss.
Yeah.
You're able to do all of these things and give
Yeah.
yourself credit for it. For anyone listening, I mean, I would really emphasize that it's okay that your path is taking as long as it is, and
Hmm.
there are, different things and different steps you can take to increase the speed or the growth of your business, but just remember that it's okay based on the season that you're in.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you said that. I think that's so huge. And like you said, it's everybody on the outside doesn't understand what we're going through. And so to not try to conform to what you think is expected of you because they don't know what works best. You spoke about, finding those two or three people that really understood. And sometimes as a adult woman, it's hard to find those connections and to really create those deep friendships. So how were you able to do that as a mom? How did you find those connections and then continue to pour into them so that it grew into a significant friendship and support system?
I actually found them networking and on social media.
I
I
love
think
that.
I think social media, it can be a blessing and a curse, but when we use it for good and for the right reasons, it can really help the success of our business. but
Yeah.
it brings us together. It's brought you and I together. And
Yeah.
I think it's amazing when we are able to be so vulnerable in
Mm.
in groups and pods and things like that, coaching programs to meet
Yeah.
other women that want success, other women who are again at different stages than we are, and they can kind of pick us up and be like, "Hey, I've been there. Like,
Yeah.
come with me. I'll help you along the way." Or two completely different businesses and you collaborate on things. You can
Yeah.
bounce ideas off one another. And then I have a few people that I met on social media, and then a few people that I've just met over the years through networking groups.
Mm.
And one thing, if for those that are new into business or even a seasoned business owner, I think it's
Mm-hmm.
important to have that growth mindset,
Ah.
finding that mentor, whether it's a paid coach or just simply a mentor that's in a similar business realm as you. I think it's important to really, confide in them. Hey,
Yeah.
I'm looking for a mentor. Is there anything that you can recommend to me, or even
Mm-hmm.
resources that helps you along the way? Because
Mm-hmm.
more often than not, we're wanting to help other people out. We just don't know that they need help unless they ask for it.
Yeah, definitely. I love that you said that. And on mombosscentral.com, there is an accountability partners section where you can link up with, it's totally free to connect with people because I know not everybody is at a place where they can hire a coach, or maybe you already have a coach, but you're looking for something more industry specific or, similar stage to you regarding parenting, whatever it is, to have that network where you can hold each other accountable, but find someone who's walked in front of you and can help guide you. So I love that you said that. And I hope that somebody listening is bold enough to ask for the mentorship they're looking for, because it can be sometimes scary to take that leap. But once you do it, it definitely, you'll see the difference in your whole life, but, propel you forward in business and in parenting, to just have somebody to vocalize what you're experiencing.
I agree. I think we all need someone that we can just text or send a message to and be like, "Hey, has this ever happened to you?"
Yes. Yeah. Seriously. I think that is so huge. Well, Lacy, I am so grateful that you're part of this community. I love everything you shared. For those listening that want to connect with you, where can they find you and what do you offer?
So I can be found on Facebook, Lacy Catao, Catao, or my business page is Reimagine Nutrition, and that's on Facebook or direct to the website. I offer one-on-one accountability and nutrition and wellness guidance. And if anyone is interested, they can always reach out to me personally, and we can set up a phone call and see if we are a good fit for one another.
I love it. We'll have everything linked in the show notes. So if you want to connect with Lacy, make sure to go click on the link down below. Well, Lacy, thank you again. So happy to have you as part of the Mom Boss Central community. And we look forward to being internet friends.
Thank you so much. It was an honor to be here.
Thank you. Thanks for joining us on this episode of Mom Boss Central. I hope you found inspiration, encouragement, and maybe even a few new strategies to rock your mom boss journey. Remember, you're not alone. We're all in this together. And don't forget to share the love with your fellow mom bosses. Make sure to join the community at mombosscentral.com. It's completely free and a space to connect with like-minded women. All you have to do is sign up and start connecting. Until next time, keep pursuing your passions and living authentically. We're so happy to have you as part of the Mom Boss Central community.